How and why digital banks are making better decisions with data analytics. Up next at 4:30 p.m, we are excited to welcome the session presented by gold sponsor of the Digital Banking Symposium, Gold Bell Financial Services, on the topic of the evolution of financing, rise of ecosystems. I will see you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Digital Banking Symposium, co-organized by the Singapore FinTech Association and the Banking and Financial Services Union. We have an exciting lunchtime program for you with a panel of esteemed speakers who will be speaking on the topic of building a bank platform in 305 days. This session is presented to you by our partners from Boston Consulting Group. As Australia's first cloud-native banking platform, Hey and other greenfield sites are challenging regulators to bring new, best-in-class technology to the country's neo-challenger scene and laying a foundation for continuous innovation. This presents an exciting opportunity, but vital to this movement is the ability to discover and optimize new partnerships that collectively overcome current obstacles and prepare the industry for the future. On the panel today, we have Mr. Jason Latham, Chief Information Officer, Hey, Ms. Pauline Ray, Managing Director, BCG Expand Research, FinTech Control Tower, Ms. Siobhan Hartnell, Commercial Lead, Asia Pacific, Australia, Featurespace, Mr. David Fodor, Business Development Manager, FSI AWS, and Mr. Miles Bertrand, Managing Director, APAC Mambu. I will now hand my time over to our speakers for their presentation.
This roll up our sleeves and talk about how to build a bank-grade bank, right? So fantastic to have everybody here. So we're going to start with a few set of slides just to give you a bit of a flavor of how we got here. First of all, with Hey and all its partners from Mambu and Featurespace. Unfortunately, David had a last-minute personal emergency and won't be able to join. But I'm sure, Jason, you'll be able to fill in for him in the spaces where AWS was a fantastic partner as you were developing the platform. Fantastic. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I think you've heard me say this a few times this morning. Over the last few years, especially since 2015, we've seen quite a huge growth in digital challenger banks, 200% in actual fact, where we've seen the majority of that in the Americas, followed by EMEA and then APAC. Interestingly enough, so we have a number, the makeup of these organizations or these digital challenger banks are slightly different. In the US, there's a prevalence of neobanks. This is where the digital challenger bank partners with a bank or a banking as a service for its license. In Europe, they have a tendency to also get their own banking license, especially since you see on the 2015 here, there is a regulation that allows for the introduction of digital banks. And then we come back to Asia, where that number, that 20%, it's a majority of that proportion is actually coming from Australia, where in 2018 we had there was the introduction as well of a vehicle to bring in some of these startup banks. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Could we go to, yes, thank you. Now, to build a digital challenger bank, and in this case, we're going to be speaking about bank-grade platform, but I think it's important to know some of the newer technologies that are important to be able to launch such digital challenger banks, to be able to really provide services, personalized services and products, and move very fast. So a few pieces here, which we discussed as well in a panel earlier. One being cloud native, and here, you know, we one of the partners as part of Hey is AWS, but also Mambu, API enabled, and also have this modular architecture that just allows you to really move faster, integrate third parties, other fintechs, and so on. Okay, we can move to the next slide. And here, this is how partners, fintech partners as well, to build or to bring to life one of this digital challenger banks. And you see them across all different parts of the stack. So first of all, from a product perspective, here we have some examples where, for example, take a TransferWise, who is an expert and to also to help us transfer money across many countries. In a very seamless way. You can transfer euros, for example, from Singapore to Italy or to France within 7 minutes. You can embed TransferWise into your own bank to be able to deliver it and not have to come out from your bank app to go into TransferWise app. So really embed TransferWise into your own product feature and deliver these products. From a technology perspective, and we'll be talking here with Mambu as well, cloud native core banking platform, which is really important in today's day. I mean, I think when we saw with COVID especially, we saw so many people move that would have potentially done a lot of their activities on a branch. They had to move to the internet using either their apps or the web-based platforms. And then features, very important features, especially around some of the areas that enable us to run the company in areas such as compliance and risk. And in this case, we'll be talking to Featurespace about the role that they played when building this bank. All right, this bank grade platform. So we go to the next one, please. So Jason, I think what would be really great here is, this very small writing in here, but if you could actually before we start, just give us a bit of an introduction to Hey Bank, and then it would be a really good opportunity then to go to Miles and to Siobhan and give a 2 to 3 minute introduction about yourselves, and then we'll talk about that journey when we talk about building a bank grade bank in 305 days.
Yeah, thanks, Pauline. So Hey is an Australian-owned but globally run fintech, and our aim was to provide people and businesses with extraordinary payment experiences. So we've got a team that's based mainly in Sydney and London, and we have two offerings. So firstly is the Retail Neo, which we launched into the teeth of a pandemic at the end of February. And we launched that into the Australian market. We chose Australia because of the RADI regulation change in 2018 that you've already mentioned, but also because they got a tech-forward populace that we thought would be, would be appreciative of the offering that we had. And then secondly, we've got HAS, which is Hey as a Service, and this is the platform we built on which to launch Hey. And we're now sharing with other fintechs to give them access to the architecture that we've created and the hard work that we've done. So, I mean, at its core, our platform and therefore the businesses are based upon some key tech principles. We wanted to build right from the start. So bank grade architecture, API first, and a modern, pure microservice architecture that allows for consistent access to payment rails. But one of the other things we had, which I think is pertinent today, was a hybrid build-buy strategy. So we've got very, very good engineers, but we use that precious engineering resource where those engineers can make a difference. And we partner with specialists such as Featurespace and Mambu to make our platform best of breed and take advantage of that and have an overall better offering using those partners.
That's fantastic, thank you. So Siobhan, why don't you give a bit of an introduction about yourself and Featurespace before we move to this, to Miles and then to the timeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Featurespace's commercial lead for APAC. Featurespace is a fraud and financial crime organization, and we've built the ARIC platform in order to really facilitate our development of our kind of machine learning in order to solve these particular problems. So we're founded out of Cambridge University. We found a very unique way in order to profile behaviors in real time in order to detect fraud and financial crime. And with the help of kind of subject matter expertise of people that have worked in the industry for, I think, cumulatively about 200 years, we've managed to align that platform to the operational needs of organizations. And I guess what's really special about this particular project with Hey Bank is the fact that with a lot of these greenfield sites, you actually have a really unique opportunity that presents itself that maybe a lot of kind of, tier one banks or much older banks don't have, in the fact that you're not kind of having to put together multiple different systems. And really, this is what was envisioned with Featurespace, of having an ARIC platform that was able to kind of look across fraud and financial crime from a holistic perspective. And that's exactly what we've deployed and we've developed with Hey in order to monitor across all of their transactional base of fraud and financial crime.
Fantastic, thank you. Miles, next generation core banking.
Next generation, yeah. So I'm the managing director for Mambu. I'm based in Singapore. And I sort of echo exactly the same things that Siobhan and Jason said. I think Mambu is the three things that were mentioned earlier. We are a cloud native, next generation API first core banking platform. And I guess we probably see ourselves as a little bit different because we have a very single product focus that we only do core banking. Traditionally, sort of banking stacks are very much more end-to-end and a lot more monolithic, whereas we use the analogy that we're an engine and then the customer gets to build whatever car they want around us. Some customers choose to buy stuff off the shelf. Some chooses to do different combinations. And the interesting thing for Mambu is that we have about 300 deployments across 63 countries. But our customer base is incredibly unique, from neos and challengers up to some tier one banks that are trying to do things differently. But every single one of those customers runs on the same code base. So we really have this philosophy of customization via configuration. And to Jason's point, the exciting thing for us is when we come across a business like Hey, is that they really wanted to push the boundaries. They didn't really want to be just another bank. They wanted to be a next generation bank that had done exactly the same thing. They really culturally were aligned that they wanted to set themselves up for success by choosing next generation technology across the board, whether it be Featurespace or whether it be Mambu, but also have that DNA to be able to build and engineer things around that technology as well. So they really are in that, what we call that composable ecosystem. So they really can pivot and change and add new components and do different things around the platform without getting caught into these constant sort of 2-year upgrade programs, significant investment. They really are consuming SaaS technology. They're getting upgrades every week, every month, and they just continue to focus on being a bank. So, from our perspective, that's what's great about, someone like a Hey, that they really set themselves a target and a goal that they wanted to be different. They wanted a banking grade platform, but they wanted to do it quickly with the next generation technology. For someone like Mambu, that's a really exciting project for us.
Perfect, thank you. Look, and if I can ask for us to take us to the next slide, please, because here I think when I first and Siobhan introduced me to the entire team, and I think what's been really interesting here is that I'm a practical optimist, and I've been working with banks, incumbent banks, for a very long time, and been working with fintechs for the past 6 years. But this is happening faster than I thought. I mean, when you, all of you, walked me through your timeline, I found it amazing, and it's something that I'd love you to share with the rest of the audience. So why don't we start with yourself, Jason? Here we have obviously three milestones. So if I just help the audience to read this, you have 2 lines in between January and September 2019. Before that, of course, there was the due diligence that you'll talk to us about. But really, what's key here, and I'd love you to talk to us, was from January, that first line of code, to September, that first transaction, which is not too far from our offices in London, at a pret-a-manger. Over to you.
Yeah, so as we say, we had the design phase for the sort of late 2018, and we hired a couple of developers that helped us with the architecture, and we worked with some other great partners to help us get the plan. And then we started with that first line of code on the first Monday of January of 2019. We had 3 or 4 more developers join us, and then we had a few more join after the team. But our first goal for the month of January was to actually put a spike through the entire system. So we mocked a transaction, and the view was we wanted it to for that transaction to hit the app and hit the core banking platform by the end of January. And with Mambu's support, we achieved that. And from there on in, it was integrate with the payment rails. You'll see that feature space comes in at around about June. It took us a lot longer to find the right fraud partner than it did to find the right core banking partner. I think we were very, very lucky actually that at our offices in WeWork in London, we were opposite a company called FinTrail who introduced themselves to us, and they've got certain expertise in fintech financial crime, and they actually bought feature space to us. So we started that in the June of 2018, and we were ready for that friends and family go live in September of 18. So I don't quite know how much exactly I can tell you. I mean, there was an awful lot of engineering, there was an awful lot of design, there was an awful lot of due diligence and work with partners. But we got a transaction that went absolutely smoothly, from tapping in that Pret-a-Manger right through to Mambu and our system of record in Australia. And it was a fantastic day. And the following day, we did our first Australian transaction at Suzy Q in Surrey Hills. So it was a bit of a whirlwind ride. It was 9 months. We were very well supported by AWS, who unfortunately aren't here. They particularly supported us on the IT risk and the journey with the regulator side, as did Mambu. They were very, very good to help us understand our risks and the shared responsibility model. I mean, that was outside of engineering. That was probably one of the biggest things we had to get through was that regulator journey, because we actually first spoke to the regulator in August of 18, and they were fairly suspicious of cloud and of fintechs that didn't have an Australian pedigree, which Mambu fell into. So it was a long journey for us to explain to them and really understand everything we wanted to do and explain why being cloud native, being born in the cloud was absolutely the right decision. And I think absolutely what the RADI process was designed for, and why, a skinny modern core like Mambu that concentrates and is empowering, and the likes of feature space are absolutely the right technology. And we launched our friends and family in September. We actually had our APRA audit in November of 2019, and I have a letter, which is one of the things I'm most proud of in my entire career, which the first line says, "We have no issues with your technology."
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, Miles, really great to hear about that as well, that journey, that sort of partnership that you took, especially vis-a-vis cloud and the regulator, because I've also been interacting a lot with some of the neobanks, the digital challenger banks in Australia, and absolutely, I mean, you were a new player back in 2018 when I first came across Hazel.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the whole regulator journey, because at the end of the day, the regulator really wants to look at the license holder and look them in the eye and say, it really, are you comfortable? Have you done the right due diligence? Do you know that your provider has got the capacity? And I think, so from our perspective, we had to get very good at supporting our potential customers by giving them the artifacts and the information to support those discussions. Because in a lot of cases, the regulator doesn't really want to talk to the technology vendor. Mind you, we have seen that change more recently. We are starting to see a lot of, and I'll say it actually, it's a change with regulators in general. I remember I presented at a conference for all the regulators in Asia about 2 years ago, and then some of them were just so anti-cloud. And they, at the end of the session, they sort of said, look, we know we have to get our head around this. We know it's coming. We know we have to embrace it. We just don't know how. but I would see the way that the regulators have changed in the past 18 months to 2 years is quite incredible, to the point now that even last week I was on the phone with the OJK and the Bank Central Indonesia, which are probably two of the most stringent and the strictest regulators in the region around data security and sovereignty. And they're actually really interested in how they can better understand how cloud can enable their financial services industry and enable their banking system as well. And I think, and I even look at the journey that APRA has been on in Australia with Jason, to his point. In 2018, they were sort of very much anti, but by working collaboratively together, us being that resource and with our experience of having done this in 60 plus countries and having dealt with the PRA in the UK, for example, having dealt with MAS up here in Singapore, we were really able to sort of say, look, it's not that scary. This is what you need to do. Here are the right checks and balances. So it really, the most important to learn, I think, is that it has to be this partnership approach, which is something that we really adhere to, because it becomes down to partnerships like Featurespace, like Mambu, working with the license holder to have the right conversations and provide the right data to the regulator. I will say, though, it's very encouraging to see that most regulators around the world now, there has been a seismic shift in their approach to this. It started in Europe. We're now seeing it transition right through Asia Pacific, and we're also seeing it obviously in the Americas as well. So that, combined with the experience of vendors like Featurespace, like Mambu, and there are many others out there. And I think a lot of credit's got to go to AWS. They have absolutely been the market leader in really driving the right conversations. I mean, they have actual compliance teams that will sit there and basically handhold organizations through the process. So even though David unfortunately is not here, I really believe AWS have had a huge impact on being able to help organizations like Mambu and then actual customers like Hey and Jason be successful. You're on mute, Chase.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Can hear you now.
Yep.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I totally echo what Miles has said. AWS's team were one of the most valuable resources we had in terms of, helping us to navigate the IT risk. I mean, the key thing for APRA, and they are very, very good to deal with if you understand your risks and you can present them. So working closely with, high quality tech team and security team like we have, but then with the likes of Mambu and AWS, actually our relationship with APRA just got better and better as time went on. So that seismic shift has definitely been seen, and the regulator has come to the party.
Yep.
Agree. I can echo that. So Siobhan, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk to us back to that time frame. There's a piece there around Featurespace and the activity that you did over the summer in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things I just want to touch on quickly is just that one of the points that Miles made, which was around building a platform that ultimately can scale with you and provide kind of more functionality at a later stage, and means that you don't have to revisit that architecture at a later stage. And really, I think it was maybe April that I got this call from Jason, and Jason kind of said to me, "Look, Siobhan, fraud and financial crime are really important to me, and so I need a company that really has it in their DNA." So, Jason, is there anything else that you can add to that kind of anecdote before we talk a little bit more about the timeline?
I mean, the sales process with Featurespace was very interesting. So, I mean, we looked at a number of the other vendors, and I won't mention them now. But everybody had a machine learning slide. Featurespace were the only ones that had machine learning in their DNA, and they were also the only ones that during the sales process said, machine learning is great, but you need data for that. And in the interim, we've got the best rules engine as well. So it was a very impressive journey, and until I met Featurespace, I had every intention of throwing 3 developers at fraud for 2 or 3 months. And given some of the rules engines on the market, I'm fairly confident we could have matched them. But when we started looking at Featurespace, and it's very similar to Mambu, and it echoes my points about specialists. You know, Featurespace, you know, risk is their raison d'etre. You know, they've got tens or hundreds of engineers worldwide. They've come out of one of the world's most famous universities. You know, they're in Silicon Valley and Cambridge in England. And I can't match that with 2 or 3 developers for 3 months. You know, these guys are on an ongoing, you know, innovation, forever developing the platform. It's a great platform. It will grow with you. And it's an exact example of the bits you absolutely shouldn't build yourself.
Thanks, Jason, for giving that kind of lens. I think then to kind of talk a little bit more about the actual timeline and the actual delivery. So within 10 days, Hey was set up with, was the first delivery of the actual software. And actually within 4 weeks, they were testing against that particular platform. And actually then July, August, and then September, by the end of September, they were live on the platform. And so there was an expedited delivery because we had kind of honed our templated design in order to make sure that we could give them a best-in-class platform and actually deliver that very, very quickly and expediently. But then there was the second part, which was making sure Hey was ready to go to market. And that was bringing in our subject matter expertise. That was working with Hey Bank in order to make sure that their fraud and financial crime policies were adept enough and appropriate enough for going to market. And so that was kind of the two-sided approach of kind of, we've given you the platform, that's great, we've set you up, but also making sure that you've got all the nuts and bolts to make sure that you're successful. Now as Hey grow, I'm sure that they will scale that platform and the functionality, but they won't need to rip and replace, which is a fantastic thing. And also they've achieved a goal of Featurespace, which is something that our chief product, one of our previous chief product officers, Luke Reynolds, initially set out to do, which was one platform with multiple products on that, which we call the ARIC Risk Hub.
Great, thank you. So we don't have a lot of time left, but what would be really good if we went back to the timeline, and Jason, and if you closed with what's the future for Hey, because it looks to me like you've been doing a few things as well.
I think one of the advantages of building the platform right from the off with our microservice API first approach and our partnering with the expertise of the likes of Mambu and Featurespace is we have come up with an offering which seems to be unique, particularly in Australia, but I think wider. And with the, I mean, as I said, we launched into a pandemic at the end of February. And during May, we started getting calls around, could other people use our platform? So we're in the process. I mean, unfortunately, I can't name it, but our first B2b client actually goes live today. They're actually going to start using the platform in their friends and family phase with a view of going live in February. And we only started working with them on the 1st of August. And we've enabled payments and transactional banking on top of their product and enabled them to go live in what is effectively 3 months. We've got a nice pipeline of B2B customers from, you know, simple small fintechs who just want to take advantage of things like faster payment or MPP rails, as well as some SME, new to market SME fintechs. It's very, very exciting. And we're also looking at getting our license in the UK. And we've got a couple of UK customers that want to start using the platform as well. And much to Miles and Siobhan's point, you know, we've built this platform. It's entirely described in code, including the configuration and the network. We can bring up an instance on AWS in tested in under half a day. The only change we would really need to make to bring this out in the UK would be to integrate with BACS and faster payments as opposed to DE and MPP. And working with the likes of Mambu for core banking and Featurespace, the rest of it is just configuration. So it's a very exciting time forward. We've got an excellent platform. We've done a lot of hard work, and not just technical hard work. Things like becoming full principal members of Visa, etc. So we've got a platform now that we're hoping to enable other like-minded businesses to take use of. And of course, we definitely want to grow the retail bank. We've delivered some Australian firsts even during COVID. We launched our Tiny Big Rewards, which was 1% on all transactions below $10 for the life of the product. And as our founder slots filled, so we managed with a low-key marketing campaign to go through the 10,000 customers, the 10,000 founders barrier. The first cards post-founders are all biodegradable, and that's a space that we're looking to own in Australia as well, and move forward, even beyond what we're doing with biodegradable cards. So it's exciting on two fronts, very exciting.
Great. Look, so I think we've overrun our half an hour, but I'd just like to thank everybody, and hopefully Miles, Siobhan, see you very soon for a coffee face-to-face in Singapore. And Jason, fantastic, and best of luck for everybody and for the continuation. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
thanks,
Thank you very
Pauline.
much to our speakers for sharing with us. Indeed, it is exciting. The banking landscape is changing, and how we are preparing to shape the industry for the future. Up next on the agenda, we have a session presented by R3, one of the gold sponsors of the Digital Banking Symposium. Their session is titled The Next Banking Revolution, a Promise of Transparency and Efficiency, and it starts at 1:30 p.m. R3, being one of the largest enterprise blockchain companies, will explore the next wave of digital banking, how both banks and fintech companies can play a part, and reasons to look into enterprise blockchain technology for your business. Do click on the next session button located at the bottom of this page, and I will see you shortly at 1:30 p.m.